questions before, so I will just say this. If anybody can repeat their questions, because I can't see the chat from before on my end, but it does appear that everyone is still on. Maybe not.
And just for people's benefit, if you want to see the screen, you go to Cressonia.io and then click on the reports section. And we've started to put these dynamic reports up, which we think are proper. And if somebody wants to beat up on them, we would appreciate people pointing that out, and we will rev them. Basically, what we've done is we have certain data sets we can use, and then we put front ends on them and have, with our friend Wilson and Mimi, they help us write up these more dynamic routines so that we can, instead of generating research reports that just give you static information, that you can actually.
Correct.
So
we are back on. I just confirmed. So I'm very happy about this.
Yeah, we've got 4 or 5 dynamic reports in here that we've created, but we haven't been able to QA them.
You want me to go back here? I'll go back and show. So, well, here, I'll go back to this for a second. All right, I'm just going to say, for those who had questions, please drop them back in. Okay, somebody's saying, it sounds like you're promoting the use of drugs. So...
Sounds like we're what?
Promoting the use of drugs.
We're promoting the use of agency.
Correct. So we are not here to say that GLP-1s don't have side effects down the road, and we're not here to say that they do have side effects down the road. What we're here to say is that we've gone past the tipping point in America of people using GLP-1s, and we have seen the implications to their current health status, in particular their current metabolic health status, of those that have successfully been able to use them. And it has created a complete market shift. Very different than fen-phen, very different than bariatric surgery. We're at a different point in the market. So when you say agency, I think it's important to say that what GLP-1s have done is, at scale, they have rewired enough humans in a manner that people have completely changed how they live their day-to-day life.
It's also created a price. So we were living in a world where no one in healthcare was really focused on primary prevention as a solution. General viewpoint, the bulk of viewpoint in healthcare was, people are going to get sick, we're going to treat them for their sickness, but we're not going to stop it. Nobody was in the business at scale. Nobody in Medicare, nobody in Medicaid, none of the standards of care, or not a lot of them, were doing or effective at reverse obesity.
Correct.
And obesity and the related chronic disease is a compounding factor in 80% of healthcare costs. So that's where we were. And what GLP-1 has done, which is important for any market, is it's put a price. It is said, and initially said, there are a group of people that will pay $1,500 a month cash to get rid of obesity. Then it said there are a group of people that will pay $500 a month. And now it's like $400 a month, and Medicare has introduced it at $50 a month. Now we have a price elasticity curve that says at $1,500 a month, 1 million people will do it. At $500 a month, 10 million people will do it. At $50 a month, 60 million people will do it. Now that you have that curve and you've got that price signal, then people are willing, other innovators are willing to say, well, wait a second. If there's money that can move on that side of the equation, I'm willing to come out with a product that maybe does that. And so we've seen Yuri's got a product where he can deliver for about $3,500 a program to help people, or maybe it's not, but we're talking about various service providers that deliver a standard of care for $3 to $4 to $5,000. That is a billable item that does this. We are seeing other metabolites, OTC metabolites, and other metabolites come into the market that trigger a similar sort of response. We have seen a major shift to productizing fiber. Again, whether GLP-1 is overprescribed or fiber is overprescribed, legitimate things to add. But we've now got demand signals where people are demanding it. No one was demanding this stuff before. Consumers are now demanding it. I much prefer an environment where consumers are demanding it and we hold them back, instead of an environment where we'll say, you're not allowed to have this until we give you permission. So now we've got a bunch of people out there, and now it's in Garmin's interest. It's in the clothing apparel business interest.
It's in healthy household items.
There's a whole bunch of other parts of the economy that now have an interest in motivating you to lose weight. Like, why wouldn't Victoria's Secret give clients a discount code if they were on GLP-1? I mean, I don't know in which way it may evolve. I mean, this sounds sort of goofy, and then it even leads to, why isn't Northwest Mutual, who sells life insurance, sitting down with their customers? They always are talking about how long are you going to live. Now they're in a position where they can start saying, you will live longer if you do these things. So all of a sudden, a whole bunch of new creative people come into the marketplace.
Well, that's what's happened.
What?
That's what's happening.
That's what's happening. And now you've triggered, and I might argue that crowd is more interested in the primary prevention path than the edge condition.
There's two levels. I mean, so let's talk about prevention for a second, and then let's talk about the market, because this is really interesting. You're kind of triggering my brain here. Is, first of all, there are 5. I was actually speccing this out. I've been wanting to write a piece on this for, like, I don't know, 5 months now. And I was kicking it around again, just yesterday, I think it was. There are 5 tiers of prevention. All you hear talked about by people is prevention or primary prevention, but there are 5 tiers. So there is something called primordial prevention. And it is the prevention of the risk factors themselves, beginning with change in the social and environmental condition in which those factors are observed. We completely ignore primordial prevention.
And that's a little bit, the guy who's Senate candidate is a little controversial here in Michigan, is a little bit more on that path, right? That's where the social determinants and things of that sort land. Is that correct?
Wait, where the what does?
Social determinants. Poverty.
Well, I would argue that the grocery store lands there.
So, but that's the format of the grocery store as it stands now.
Yeah, is primordial prevention that's not delivered versus primary. So primary prevention is stopping disease before it occurs. Nutrition, counseling, exercise advice, reducing personal exposures. So that's like, I need to learn how. But if you have primordial, I mean, this gets back to system A, B, and C. Is A was really primordial.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
And then primary is more, it gets a little, it's obviously it's not black and white between primordial and primary, but you get the idea here. And then, secondary is early detection once the disease process has begun. And so that's catching diabetes before it becomes diabetes. And right, that's the whole pre-chronic universe. But what's interesting about this is there's no financial benefit right now in the downstream healthcare economy to primordial and primary, where the money, there's a little bit, if you consider vaccines to fall into primary, that's where the money is, or going to see the primary care. But again, let's take this. So I'm going to go to something that happened to me yesterday that gets back at agency. Well, I guess we're going to spend a lot of time talking about agency today, which makes me happy because it's been just really in my brain. Because to me, the fact that we are unlocking agency like exponentially by the minute is exactly why this is happening. So, and honestly, I think the only reason, maybe this is the whole hedge we need the hedge on, is the only reason everything hasn't shifted primarily over to direct to consumer is because there's no way to capture the consumer the way that we typically have with healthcare. And because the more that we relinquish the requirement for a clinical barrier to do certain things, the more we can give agency to consumers to do a bunch of this primordial
There
and
is. I mean,
stuff.
who are we? There's no way for the healthcare system to do it, but
Right.
financial
I'm
students,
saying the like grandiose we. I'm saying like
you
everybody in
know,
the world, somebody's going to come along and crack the code on this. Like,
well, here are the people that are benefiting from it, and they getting a positive externality from it, and it's financial services, life insurance, Garmin, Quest, Victoria's Secret. They're all making money on it. They're not having to invest anything in it. They're making um, and they can make more money on it. That's when people are to some degree, I think we need to start showing the system C is easier. Like when when a consumer at Kroger's goes from in store to online, they move 8% to Whole Foods. That's one proof point. Another proof point is that when you start seeing multiples on Quest, even though the pull through hasn't fully come through on revenue, that's another sign that the market believes that Quest is going to go up, and so that's an opportunity to make money. And now all of a sudden those economic incentives start showing up. Now that it would be good to tie them back and productize them.
okay, so let's go back. Okay, so let's go back to this example. As usual, I'm going to make it about me. So I like that smirk. I have a thyroid issue, and the standard of care today is that I would have an endocrinologist or a primary care physician that would monitor my thyroid. That to me doesn't seem like a very cost-effective way to any longer to do that. How do you respond to that?
Say that again.
I have a thyroid issue. My thyroid is not interested in working anymore. Not very much. So I have to take it is underactive, right? I don't like taking medicine. But because I have an underactive thyroid, the standard of care is to have either an endocrinologist or a primary care physician. And because I also have nodules on my thyroid, I guess I've had a biopsy. I am meant to have an endocrinologist or a primary care physician, quote unquote, managing my thyroid, managing my condition. That to me, the way it is structured today I do not believe is any longer is a cost-effective approach.
Well, you're I'm not sure how to answer this. I want to be. There are clinical indications for things, so we will have. I think a thing that
I have no symptoms, Carter. I have no
no,
symptoms.
but you. I think it's very easy for like. I'm obviously on a thing about Medicare for all. I think Medicare for all is fundamentally evil. Now, I don't
Okay,
think a lot of
this
people would have immediately. Hold on a second. Would immediately sort of say, "You're a jerk. You're like you don't care about people." It's like, no, I do care about people. What I care about is we're trying to make a system to address acute disease, deal with chronic disease. We're trying to take a thing that's a hammer and make it a screwdriver. And I realize that there are people who chronic disease aren't getting done, but we have to address these two things differently. Prevention is we have another problem like this on prevention in which I get upset where people say, well, if people just had the will to do it, we wouldn't have this problem and they shouldn't take a drug. So we get ourselves in these situations where we're like, no, I don't like what other people are doing, which gets us back to agency. You got to do what works for you and which you can pull
You're
off. Now,
missing my point. You're missing my point.
I maybe am. Go ahead.
Okay. My point is this. The way that my insurance is structured, I want to have a pure conversation about the cost of my care and my point to this, Carter, is what I should be able to do and what I have to go to a clinician for and how this all works. Like we're not having these conversations in healthcare. It's this black and white. And so it struck me really clearly yesterday when somebody said to me they saw my thyroid numbers bouncing all around. And what they said to me was, don't you have a doctor managing your thyroid? And it really pissed me off. And I didn't know why. And I was like, wow, why did I have such a visceral reaction to that? And it made me, and I realized because a doctor doesn't need to manage whether or not my TSH is going up or down. I can do that from a numerical perspective. The standard of care is that I should go get a lab test X times a year, and I should be monitoring my symptoms, and then I should be taking my medicine. And then every X number of months, right? Those numbers are checked. If I have nodules, fine. We do an ultrasound every year if that's the standard of care, right? But that's just it. That's what I do. I don't need a clinician to tell me to do that anymore. Like I don't need to pay somebody to do that part. What I want to pay somebody to do is to help me if I say, you know what, I don't want to have to take the medicine anymore. I want somebody to tell me how that's even feasible. Even if there's not 1,000 million RCTs that have proven that you can, I want to know if there's ARPA-H information. I want to know if there's, 32 people were studied in, whatever. And that is where I believe a lot of this is happening, is that people are like, hey man, I don't want to pay you all this money to go get my labs and see the number and have you tell me what's very, very obvious to me. After the first visit, after maybe the second visit, like I'm
So
pretty clear.
do you think that patients who are less informed and less agile as consumers are arriving at that same point where they're basically saying, look, I don't know how to solve this and I don't know even what ARPA-H is, but I do know that this form of care delivery is completely futile compared to every other thing I buy in consumer as a consumer.
Yes.
Without knowing the details of how it's getting to me, I am attuned enough to know that this is unlikely giving me the right answer.
Not even allowed to ask the question, Carter.
In
That's
the
the
current
issue.
healthcare system, you can't
Correct.
because you'll have various components of the system tell you that you shouldn't know, or you don't. I don't know that you shouldn't know, but you've got different. Well, it's a fight over data. There's one set of doctors that are like, yes, take the data and make some mistakes. And they're not another set of doctors that say, God, please don't take the data and you don't know what you're doing. And those are two very distinct camps, and they're
But in this particular example, like, fine, you shouldn't go out and like, I mean, I guess where I'm going with this is to say there's this, to me, there's something that has to be worked out here of, okay, I can, I can monitor these numbers myself. And I don't need to pay $400, right? I mean, this notion that like, yeah, well, it's only $50 for me or it's $20. It's still $400 to the system, you know? I mean, for somebody under the age of 65, it's
Yeah,
a
you
specialist.
but I do want to go back a little bit where I was. So if it's chronic disease,
Yes.
there are, I would generally say there are a wider array of people without having to go to 3 years of medical school and residency and blah, blah, blah. There are a wider array of people that can reliably deliver primary prevention without that constraint. If you're getting into extremes of acute disease, there are very few that can
Yes.
do that. Somewhere in between is manage my thyroid. But the back pressure, I think the absolute back pressure should be that you as a consumer should have zero friction. If we want to, if there are 1,000 disease classes out there going from chronic to pancreatic cancer, we want a healthcare system that if the one extreme cases requires a high degree of human intervention and intensity, and the other is this is fairly straightforward and can be as mechanical and can be done. Those two extremes. If there are 1,000 disease classes out there and only 10 are in the doesn't require extreme specialty, over time we want to go from 10 to 100 to 1,000. We want to keep designing it so that the market system causes, in a systems C world, the market causes the knowledge to be generalized. So maybe I'm a little too geeky there. It means that you're on a build. Manage my thyroid. You can almost do a build for every disease class.
Well, okay, it would be a personal build. I mean, that's a personal build. And I mean,
But you
let's,
could get a bunch of people. That'd be an interesting build.
you
Could you
totally could, but
could it build me a standard of care?
okay. I mean, this gets into customization and just what,
If there are a bunch of people that are interested in being able to self-serve their thyroid management without having to go, I mean, just
agreed.
you
But
get
isn't this really about shifting what we're asking the clinical delivery system, to your point, to make it more what it's designed to do and giving agency back to the person and removing friction for things like I can just go like why I again like I should
evolution didn't have a PCP and didn't have someone to manage acute disease. Evolution produced humans and made sure the species survived. And it did not care about pathogens. And so we're fixing pathogens. Okay, fix pathogens. And it didn't necessarily care about cancer because, and so, but the delivery system, as humans, we, there should be no reason that any service provider really needs to be involved in chronic disease management. Evolution did it without any service
okay,
providers.
I don't want to throw the healthcare system out and act as though it's not needed because I don't I
I,
hear you at a you're
endpoint
talking
stand,
about at a fundamental. I understand you're talking, but I think
we've
people listening may not understand.
operated in that world, so we can keep moving down the path of. I think the way this will happen is chronic disease will become will deal with it from primary prevention, so it even never shows up. You just don't get it. And the service providers will be out there solving it, and the capital will start to move in. It already is. And then acute disease, evolution never needed to solve for acute disease because it had enough other humans around to keep the species alive. So it never solved for that. And we as humans want to solve for that because we care about people. So that will require intensity. But I'm sitting in pitches all day long from people who are tying together data in a way that we've never tied it together to go solve
Bingo.
acute disease.
And I think that people,
right,
I think that what's happening.
Pipeline.
You want to finish? And then I'll tell you what I was going to say.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that what's happening, part of this, is that all of this was jumbled together in one bucket of healthcare delivery. And there was a gatekeeper. I mean, my gosh, when I first started in healthcare, within years of when I first started in healthcare, we were using the term gatekeeper. We were calling the primary care physician the gatekeeper. Like that was allowed back then. And so we created this system where you wanted a bottleneck. You wanted a stopgap for people to be able to do what they wanted for their healthcare, because the worry was that, you open the faucet and people are just going to dump water, right? And it's going to be money and it's going to be wasteful. They're going to get a bunch of care they don't need or whatever. Well, now what's happened is that pent up demand. You have a ton of people, and the example I gave of the thyroid is one. I mean, I was talking to somebody yesterday who's is similar in age to me and is dealing with perimenopause and is being told that the only way to eliminate the severe symptoms that she's encountering is to get a friggin' ablation. And there are a million different things that she could try that she wants to try, right? She's not asking somebody what's the most direct path, that's going to end this right this minute. And this is where covered benefits and standard of care and what's been researched and, I feel like part of this goes back to liability, goes back to education, all of this, right? But the good, bad, and ugly of AI is that it's synthesizing all of different things that are out there that could be options, and people know that. And so they're like, I'm kind of tired of going to this one source of knowledge that is required to stay very focused on, this particular thing be covered under malpractice. It's a covered benefits, right? And so people are saying, you know what, I don't believe you and I want to look for other options. And because we don't have a structure where we're allowed to sort of be one or the other, like kind of be in between, it's creating this divide.
Well, we do have a structure. We just don't permit it.
Of the in between?
Yeah. It's the general
What
market.
is it?
It's the marketplace.
Well, yeah, but it's the market. And that's what's emerging, which is your point
do
about.
that for every part of the economy. I mean, nobody's sitting there saying, you know what? We need to be sure that you're the right person using this computer. We got to be sure you're the right person using this electric car. Or we've got to be sure that you're the right person to live in this condo.
So I'm going to read some comments. So we have a very engaged, and we are very appreciative, this very engaged person. Their code name is 47MR. So I can't attribute, I'm not sure if we know this person or not. But this was the same. This was the same person that made the point about promoting the use of drugs. So I'm guessing based on the comments that maybe they're newer to our framework and ecosystem, because I feel like if they were more familiar with our system ABC and kind of what we've written over the last couple of years, they might not have these questions, but I think it's there's really good points being made, which is, it's in collaboration with what we've been saying. So the comments are, therefore, prevention becomes treatment. This is, I think, when I was talking about primordial, et cetera. Isn't that the return philosophy of the magic pill? Are we not just finding ways to make money and ignoring our own preventive health? And I mean, I let me just hit all these and then I'll go back to that when we can kind of jump one by one. But the system is only focused on treatment that generates profit and no focus on cause or cure. I, again, like I said, this is all stuff that we would agree at, like, again, the case. Your body's unique and should not be treated on a standard basis, 100%. This is personalized N of one, which is what we know we need. And then chronic diseases after the fact. Acute is the warning that your health is changing. And we write about pre-chronic and all of that. I think probably where I want to sit with that, because the bottom three are things that we are very much have written and exposed, is I'll just say this, and then the prevention, which is our premise is absolutely that the externality of chronic disease is removed from the pricing upstream in our food. This is at a very, sort of basic level. And that is the economic disconnect that is allowing this all to self-perpetuate. That is one of that is a big component of that. And so if we know that as a foundation, right, then I think this point of the magic pill, this is what I want to hit on a little bit, isn't that the return philosophy of the magic pill? It's finding a way to make money and ignoring our own preventive health. We could 100% go down that path. I think what I want to say out loud is where you and I are is, instead of seeing that as a fait accompli, just like instead of seeing it as a fait accompli that we're going to live in a world of protein Oreos and high fiber Doritos for the rest of our lives, right? That instead we're saying, if we do this right, if we accelerate the right things, if we bring the right people together, which is happening, that the magic pill is actually magic in terms of revealing latent demand and creating consumer agency in enough of the population that the market for a grocery store where you don't make a bad decision, a market for upstream health. And if we, for example, we restructure health insurance so that we're truly only insuring things that are insurable, and we're instead unlocking how we right now mash everything together and just under the presumption that 60 to 70% of people are going to get chronic disease. And we say, actually, no, we're only going to insure this piece, which means that the base insurance price is much lower. It also means there's a lot less covered, but that means that it can be used in all of these other ways. Now, all of a sudden, we have unlocked dollars for people. They want to take the magic pill, fine, they can take the magic pill. But once they've taken the magic pill and it's successful for those that it is, like we see today,
Pill?
that's the GLP-1. Now all of a sudden, those people are like, wait a minute, I don't eat as much. I need more protein. I'm not drinking wine anymore. My disposable income is shifting. What I'm focused on, what I'm doing, all of that. If we chase that market and we are there for that demand, the magic pill was nothing more than a means to the end.
It made the market. It revealed the market.
Correct.
It's like the first version of the PC.
100%.
Ozempic is the IBM PC, and Zepbound is the Macintosh. I mean, it's gonna evolve. And it's 1982, and people are starting to understand what a PC computer is, and so in a multi-trillion-dollar market, there are lots of things.
I know. So let's go back to agency for a minute. And let's tie into Mike Williams had a question. He had to jump, so he's not here listening. But it makes me think of this point about we don't need acute care or whatever, like because that's not what we actually believe. But he made a point about when you were talking about, or he said, how do you entice young people to go to medical school? Baby boomer docs are retiring, and we need general practitioners. So, this is a place that I think has to really be. I know people are starting to chase after this, but this is that where the market is really sort of testing this out. And I think so. This ties me to Aura, where I think Aura is getting sued as a result of this very point of what the replacement for that could be. It's it, there is a different way for us to deliver care in partnership with machines. Period. The amount of context and learning and information that those machines can handle and process to support humans is undeniable. And so to me, these are not equal human tasks, the management of care, right? The management of prevention, all these things. And so to me, there's this massive opportunity of how do we titrate, and you kind of hit on this, right? To redesign that care delivery model. We still need GPs, but use the human when you really want the human, and have the human do what the human has always. I think the other thing is, like, nothing has changed, right? Humans are still able to do what they've always done. The difference is they have a different tool set to depend on when it comes to care delivery. But we don't know what to do with that yet in the current healthcare delivery system. And so we're letting consumers sort of figure it out, which is, you would, I'm sure, argue that's creative disruption at its finest. I'm going to throw Aura into this because I think it's an interesting.
What is the Aura suit? I don't.
That's what I was going to say. So Aura is getting sued, and I need to go back into this. Like, anybody who's listening, I've taken my understanding of this lawsuit and made some assumptions. I could be off some in the details of this. So I think what I want to use for this, Carter, is more an example of this is the broader issue that we're going to see time and time again as a result of this. And it gets back to the algorithm. So you wear an Aura, right? Okay, so do you check anything? How do you check in with your Aura? How do you use your Aura?
I don't know. I look at it every now and then.
Okay, so you don't look at it every morning.
No.
Okay. So a lot of people look at it every morning. When you look at it occasionally, what do you look at?
I've been looking. I look at the general numbers. I don't use it a lot. I've been looking at the general numbers.
And would the general numbers be the scores?
A little bit. I don't like lean on the scores heavily.
And why don't you lean on the scores heavily?
Because I think it's too complex for anything to get right.
Bingo. Because how are those scores calculated?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yes, you do. Set of assumptions, a set of parameters, and an algorithm.
Okay. I mean, they've got some generalized models around it, and they're trying to make the models better.
Correct. But it comes back to assumptions and an algorithm and a calculation, correct? And then that's the score that you're looking at. So, and then you've just pointed it out. This is the conundrum. Is that if you're going to collect a bunch of data and then you're going to turn it into insights and information, right? Now people are going to depend on it for decision-making purposes. And that's kind of the risk of AI here, is what all of these new preventive companies are doing is in an effort to make it simple for people, right? Because you could go into Claude and ask 1,000 questions and you get 1,000 answers. You can dig and dig and dig, and you can get so much information, right? You and I have both learned that. But most people don't have the time for that. They don't, there's no thanks. Just tell me what I need to do, right? Just tell me what it means. That's what most people want. So then you're depending on whoever's giving you that insight, that insight is that summary is based on logic that is sound. So what's happened is that somebody's suing them over the fact that the scores, that like they're being told wrong information. So, right? So this is the challenge. So I should show you this. I didn't show you this. So I put this together yesterday. Because I have been just in my brain, I have like 1,000 different ways that I want to write a piece up on this. And this comes from my experience with the chart, the infamous health chart. You know what I mean?
Right. Who's doing this lawsuit? Do we know?
I think it's a consumer.
Well, are they being funded by Sleep Aid or something?
Who funded it? I don't know. You want to look that up while I'm pulling this up to show you something?
Yeah. It's a class action lawsuit, so it could just be a.
Are you like,
Somebody did it. They bought it for $513.68 in 2025, but didn't know it cost that much. Did it cost that much?
what else are you reading?
Um, I had to read it more. I wonder if it's a Wednesday. It is
Well,
interesting. Well,
okay, let's.
this is what's going to happen. Uh, The great thing about creative destruction is it doesn't destroy knowledge. So there will be investments made. We've got sort of two camps here. We've got the make sure it's all evidence based. Camp A, got to be evidence based. You've got to prove it. Don't do anything until we've proven that it works.
Thank you.
That's Camp A. Camp B is we sort of have this worked out. We think it works. And Camp B has consumers who are like willing to try stuff that's iffy. You put both into the field and say, solve the problem, eliminate chronic disease. You have Camp A run out there to eliminate chronic disease, and you have Team B go out there, or the Team B go out to do it. Which one's going to win? We're varying. So Team A, evidence-based, do the research, prove that it's going to work, then deploy. Team B, we think it works. Let's go to consumers that agree with us. Let's go deploy. Which team is going to save more lives?
I don't know which one.
I think Team B. I mean, we've been on Team A since 1967, and we've stopped studying the issue. NIH doesn't really dedicate a whole lot of money to this issue of chronic disease. More people are getting it, and people are dying because they don't have access to the advanced solutions that are even being tried. And so on team B, how many people are being harmed dramatically because Aura's sleep data is off? And is Aura's sleep data getting better? So Aura will get sued. They'll get bitch slapped around a little bit because of that. And they will buy a company that does EEG measures with earphones. And then they'll be better. And then they'll get sleep better. And they'll use some of the $16 billion from their raise to do that. Team, which wins, team A or team B? I would bet on team B, but I could be wrong.
So I'm going to show you something because I think this is really interesting. And I wish I have some other data on this, but this is the whole point of my statement on these algorithms. And this is why someone's suing them. And this is part of the missing delta here, because it's a little bit of the wild, wild west. Is I've had my labs. Now, this is only I've got a much more comprehensive of this, but this is just a snapshot of those that us, right? Just a few. And what I did was I allowed the colors to be the colors of the company at the top. And those colors were given to me from the company based on their reference range. Okay? You following me here? So what I should do is I should take this and run it through and say what each company would have told me, because these numbers are different. But what's really interesting here is this probably isn't the best one, but the superpower. So Prenuvo was much less aggressive with its judgment of my health than Superpower. This doesn't show it as well. I'm kind of bummed because this isn't exactly what I wanted to show. Okay. Maybe I can do it this way. Something different, because I do want to show you this. Because it really just struck me. I kind of revisited this again because I think this gets at agency. There was so much of the debate that my comparison chart post created. So much of it was about people don't know what to do with the data. So we shouldn't be sharing, they shouldn't have all of this data. So, and I think I'm going to show this to you. And I think this is an example, perfect example of what the current healthcare system is pointing towards. Okay. So here, let me show you this. So I'm going to pull up my superpower action plan from last year when I did my superpower test. This was a little over a year ago. And apparently I am not going to be able to show you the test. It's going to look blank because my computer is not happy with all the things that I'm trying to do with it. Try one more time and then I'll give up. It was I think I'm not meant to be showing this for some reason.
So I don't lose the audience.
My point was going to be that Superpower made a judgment on 100 of my biomarkers according to their reference ranges. And those reference ranges are not agreed upon anywhere. And then they made recommendations according to those reference ranges, and Aura has done the exact same thing, right? Because I don't have an agnostic source of truth, I'm trusting whoever's giving me the algorithm of what they're telling me about my data. This is no different than going to a doctor. Just to be clear, this is no different than going to a doctor.
The doctor has a certain set of reference ranges, and
Correct.
Superpower has reference ranges.
Correct.
And the doctor is probably less willing to change those.
And why is that?
Because if he changes it, he might aggravate reimbursement. He might activate FDA. He's got a whole bunch of people around him telling him not to change anything that he's doing. Um, and that's team A. And team B is worried about is solving to end chronic disease. And they don't even know it, maybe. Or I may not fully know it. And Aura may be being capitalist and might be doing capitalist kind of things that are not perfect. But Aura's got Garmin as a competitor. It's got Function Health as a competitor. It's got a whole bunch of other people that are doing their own thing and they're not on the same team, but they all are trying to focus on the fact that the consumer doesn't want to die early. The only person who's getting the sleep data right is the morgue.
Bingo.
The Aura will get better at it to compete against the morgue. Sleep 8 will get better at it. That startup that we've got that measures your brain waves and figures out your sleep data
Yep.
will.
Well, I want to meet the guys from Dumbo
compete.
Health because they're doing some really cool stuff with sleep.
They're all going to compete against this in various ways. And I think what we've learned out of the clinicians is that, I don't know, we're going to soon find out that sleep really doesn't matter. I know that everybody in the world says that sleep matters. I'm going to put a chip on.
Okay.
On 22 that says no, sleep won't matter, but
it depends on you. That's the thing. You always talk about evolution. We are nothing more than a complex set of very unique genetic combination, and for every single human there's a different formula of how they stay out.
There's a different ish. It still rhymes the same way. It's not
right,
like
it's a different combination.
It's not like your biological systems are dramatically different than mine. But from a system C perspective, however you are agitated to the point to take proper action so that your obesity goes down, a human's obesity goes down because you've got no obesity because you get VO2 max of 450, but that your obesity rate goes down. Whatever got you there is okay. There's nothing wrong with what it got the job done. And I think that most of us go through life on terms of what gets the job done. And if that means cognitive dissonance gets the job done, it's not exactly something you want to scale, but so what? And that's what happens in the marketplace. And it's not like my comment on the marketplace is not trying to be the market always wins. So the fact that it typically does is just noticing that it typically gets the job done correctly and faster. And the sort of central planning kind of role that we've got right now is not getting the job done. Chronic disease is going up.
Anyway. So let's talk about concept of a system C stack. Can we talk about that?
We can. Yeah.
It's the ultimate in agency today.
The first principle concept in this is there. I don't know. Yes, let's call this first principle. The chronic disease will end at some point. It will end in 100 years. It'll end in 75 years. It'll end in 50 years. And so it's when. So then the question is how do we speed it up? We want to speed up creative destruction. We want Aura to get sued and for them to fix what they're trying to do so they get their IPO out and then they produce cash that lets them invest in the thing that gets sleep better data. I don't know that gets you to the stack, but that is a healthy process. They make a claim, they get customers complain about it, they fix the process, they make it better.
So how do we create a stack to support a bunch of auras to accelerate all of that stuff?
You're sort of leading the witness here. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, well, you've taught me well, my friend.
That's the next step in what we're trying to do with Chrysonia. So we you have that world that we see. We have a bunch of Lego blocks, or as a Lego block, Garmin's a Lego block, the standard of care is a Lego block, the I have an idea of a new insurance product is a Lego block. And each one of these Lego blocks is assembling to build the
Yep.
new system.
But what about the consumer? Let's focus on the consumer. A
So
system C stack for the consumer. How do we start assembling that?
So every market needs a customer.
Right? And we've got 25,000 of them engaged with us.
So the notion we have is we have a thing called a build. And the notion is a build is a Lego block. I'm trying to get this thing done. And it could be I'm a consumer with my N of one Lego block in which I want to have total information awareness around sleep. And I'm convinced in an N of one world that if I get my sleep better, all my other problems will get better. And so
Isn't
that's
it okay? Wait. What about? Well, I feel like we've jumped way ahead to somebody's already drilled into sleep. I feel like we need to back up and say.
Well, it might be earlier, but they've got some premise.
I thought we were going to build a stack that helps them work their way into that stack.
Well, we do you don't have to leave me completely. You mean a health span app?
So I'm a consumer, and I want primordial and primary prevention, and I want to be able to do it directly, and I know I can, but I'm really confused. And Carter and Ellen are over there. They're not influencers. They're connected with industry. They're being really honest. They're being really transparent. They don't seem to be snake oil salesmen, even though I can't tell. So what in our role where we are, to your point, we talk to all of these companies that want nothing more than a System C world. And then we talk to all these consumers that want nothing more than a System C world. And so we want to make it happen. So for the consumer, the first step is agency, is it not? Giving them agency to understand their health data.
That's an important step.
Right? Isn't that like a really fundamental foundation of the stack?
Important step, yes.
Okay. So then what are the things that you would put into that piece for them to get agency? Good labs, for example?
Yeah,
I mean, they could go to Pernuva, they could go to Good Labs, they could use it through, or it doesn't matter, but here is the more data you collect, the more data you're going to have to drill into to figure out potentially more context on your body. It's not that having 500 versus 100 versus 50 is better. It's that if you want to drill into the most personalized mix of things as possible, then as many of the things that are both early and late indicators of your health, capture it and capture the trend, right? Isn't that, I mean, that's what we're saying?
Yeah.
So
immediately actionable. I don't know how many people. Well, yes.
So let's just start there. It's like people need to get their data. If you want to live in a System C world, if you want to move into a different place in your health, get your data. Right? So now you've got that like data layer of things, and I think we put a whole, here you could do this, you can do this, you can do this, right? Here's why. Boom.
It really doesn't matter whether it's superpower or it's function health or
it's what correct. And it's what you hit on with Aura. It's about the data. It's not about the scores. So it's not about you telling me that superpower said that your ApoB was yellow. It's about superpower telling us what that ApoB was. And then it's about comparing that to your Epic record, from the record from your last checkup 2 years ago that was in my chart that you downloaded, right? And you were able to see side by side that ApoB actually went up. That's what matters with the data, is what does the data tell you?
And in conjunction with what you did. So I mean, it's a little bit of the prediction of even the sleep is if you've done these things and, the reason why the lawsuits get stupid is if you did these things, does your sleep improve and did it capture the fact that it improved? That's what you're trying to get to, not that it give you that you relied on getting your sleep. Like, you know what? You got my sleep off by 5 hours, by an hour, and therefore now these things are wrong in my life as a result. Instead of I've done this and my sleep's gotten better and I'm happier. Those are two different cases. So the trending.
The trending, but see, I actually think there's something really important there for people when they're using tools like the ones we're talking about, is that if you're on one side of your mouth going to say, I don't have time to learn this, I don't understand it, just tell me. Then on the other side of your mouth, you can't say, my sleep felt a lot better than a 70 last night. This aura doesn't work.
Yeah, it might be an edge case. All these people are the class of edge cases because even the 50 versus 95% claims are not right because you're probably getting into type 1, type 2 error and a whole bunch of other things, which is more education for people.
Right. But it's all about, look, the important thing, what we're saying is get your data. So now you have as much data as you can, right? So this is where everybody gets stuck. Where do I take that data? What do I do with that data?
You're really walking me through this in a very pedantic way. So we just, you,
I don't know
the
why.
data is obviously going to it's going to converge and you're going to get to the point. I mean, we work across all these apps and we're using, I don't know if we should be, people need to, here's what we really need from people who are out there is, are you doing this? What are you running into? Are you gathering the data? What don't you like? What are you learning? That's what we need to
Yes.
know. We are deving two things, and we're getting to the point that they're probably the point that anybody can sign up for them. One is a HealthSpan app, which is healthspan.cressonia.io, and is intended to help us understand what data you're gathering. It's a HIPAA free zone, so there's no HIPAA restrictions on there. If you upload your data, we're not going to go probe it. It's all secured, but it's not. This is intended to be where people are going to share data. Ultimately, to try to understand understand how people are thinking about this market, and then reveal how people are thinking about the market to the market, so that we can improve these things. And then the
Correct.
second thing we're working on is Cressonia proper, which is going to be for people who are building solutions to get us to System C, that they can sit in there and say, I'm trying to build this thing towards System C. Either it's a company or it's a position or it's a new program out of Medicare or whatever. I'm building this thing, a Lego block in System C, and I need help. I need to know where the frictions are. I need to know how to answer the frictions. When I run into this complaint, I need help figuring this out. I need to understand what the economics in a System C world are going to be. I need to understand how to find customers. And so we're taking all the 30 meetings we have each week with people and trying to pull that together in a place so that people can that 2,000 people can get access to that in a week instead of Ellen and I having to write it all the time or whatever, to try to speed up the information flow so that people can log in and they can hook up with an MCP or hook up with their Claude or hook up whatever and get a common framework around their build. And we
So,
can accelerate
yes, the industry itself.
speed
And
systems with examples so that, when we tell people the Kroger example, will go digital and you shift 8% towards food, towards whole food. That's a milestone that causes people to think differently. We
and
need
we
100.
want to capture that insight so that everybody sees that real time. They can go out there and see that data attributed to that experiment. Now, So this is really fitting for the final landing here is
which I do have to close.
I
in
know
3 minutes.
I am. I'm landing this is let's go back to the consumer piece again on the health span piece. And it doesn't, don't worry about health span. Let's just call it the system C stack. And there's, the next layer in this is, and this person just said it, they said, I enjoyed listening, but there's a long way to go. I agree. Everyone needs a baseline in monitoring their progress. The question is what they're going to do to their body during the interim. So this gets into, I think another really important key to this stack is the feedback loop. And we had this long conversation, 2 weeks ago, with our lifestyle medicine friend, physician who talked about this, which is now you have something that's engaging with you that's saying, okay, Ellen, you woke up at 3:40 this morning and you fought a good fight, but you never really fell back asleep very well. So you only got 6 hours of sleep. And you probably shouldn't do more than that run you did, even though you want to lift weights. And you really need to focus on taking care of yourself so that tonight you get good sleep, right? Which is that very first primary piece to things versus I don't do anything about it, right? I read the data, I see I slept crappy, and then I just go about my day. Is how do I create that engagement of this happened, so now this needs to happen. And then how do I know that I've recovered? And I'm talking about it a granular one night sleep, but the next would be, I know when to get my blood work done. I know how to look at my feedback loop. I know which metrics I can look at every day versus which metrics I should be measuring every 30 days or every 60 days, right? Like,
I am hanging up in a minute. Sorry.
What else am I missing from the stack? Then people can actually plug into the companies. They can buy Bob's Vegetables from Chef's Garden, and then they can.
You should tell us what we think are missing from that stack. I don't know that I've got 100 things I could say, but
Thank you, George, for joining. George Soria is our very engaged audience member today. Okay. That's another episode of the Food is Health Revolution.
Okay.
Trying to unpack System C. Build the System C stack. Send us your thoughts.